Are we good to go? Joel? All right, everybody. Thanks for coming out tonight for our session. We're going to have really cool guests today doing a lockpicking workshop. We're also going to have a few interesting stories by myself, Hussein, John, and Adam. I'll be talking about a recent data leak. We'll be covering Canada TikTok stuff that I know everybody's been hearing in the news, and some new vulnerabilities and tools, Linux tool, really cool one. Yeah, so this is our schedule today. Like I said, we're going to be covering the news. We'll have a little break, and then we'll do the workshop, and it'll be really cool. I'm looking forward to it. Okay, so I'm going to start us off with this data leak. So there was a major attack in May of 2023 with a file transfer software called MoveIt, which is used by major companies to securely transfer internal files. So it's like an internal HR tool, and a lot of major companies use it: HSBC, Amazon, McDonald's, Canada Post, and they're all affected by this. So a hacker by the name of Nameless went on breach forums. I'm sure some of you heard about it. It's a major cybersecurity forum platform. So he went on there and he said that he released yesterday a major CSV file containing data with these companies in it. So the data leak yesterday, like I said, and HSBC was actually the most affected, but like I said, Canada Post, so it does affect us. I actually have a family member that works at Canada Post, so I told them, like, yeah, you guys got destroyed. So make sure that you're safe, especially in this time of year, holiday season. Targeted phishing attacks against vulnerable people are very serious. You could get an email for a coupon or a travel at the end of the year that's giving you a travel discount or something like that, and it could look good to people, and it's actually a very serious time of year for this type of stuff. So from what we know, most of the data, like I said, was HR records. 1,000 more records are yet to come, and this was actually confirmed by a cyber intel company called Hudson Rock. So what they did was they went through the lists of these employees and matched it up with their LinkedIn profiles. So they're finding a lot of matches there. So they know that what this Nameless guy saying on the forum is actually true and very dangerous. So like I said earlier, yeah, the phishing attacks, like personal attacks, identity theft attacks, this is a major thing. And this story, we're going to follow it for some time now and see what for my presentation. I'm talking about this in.
All right, guys. So I'm going to be talking about some recent news in terms of TikTok. So Canada is once again kind of following in the United States' footsteps in terms of going against TikTok as a company. And I don't know, you can see this in kind of a positive light or a negative light. But they've chosen to shut down all of the corporate offices for TikTok in Canada. And this has kind of raised some concern about kind of the effectiveness of this strategy. Like, would shutting down their corporate offices really have an impact on what they can do with the data that they're collecting from the apps? Because people will still be allowed to use the TikTok app, but there won't be any corporate offices operating within Canada. And another big concern among Canadians is how we can hold the actual TikTok company liable in Canada now. Like, what corporation would be responsible for any kind of damages done to the people using the app within Canada? So yeah, tons of concerns. Just a kind of a quick summary about what happened, and yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Hussein. I'm going to be giving it over to Adam.
So there's a lot of debate between which phone OS is better. You usually have Samsung with Android and then iPhone with iOS, and it always comes down to pretty much the same things: battery life, camera quality, price of the phone. But it rarely ever comes down to security. And I've always found it fitting that in the same week, two articles were released about each phone OS and a different threat for each. So I kind of wanted to cover both. Starting with the iOS, it's known as the spyware called Light Spy. It was made in 2020, and recently it died down after that. But then recently, researchers found that it's been being updated and upgraded. And the way that it works is pretty interesting. So it's based off of something known as the watering hole attack. So in essence, what the hackers do is they inject script from JavaScript or HTML onto somewhere that a user commonly goes to. And it's called the watering hole attack because it's based off the premise where a predator waits at a water source, waits for prey to go and start drinking water, and then the predator attacks. And that's exactly what they do here with common websites that they go to, like news websites or stuff like that. And they inject code through JavaScript and HTML, and this code exploits WebKit, which is the Safari's engine, pretty much, which is the search engine for Apple. And the specific vulnerability that they exploit from this is they download a quote unquote safe PNG file. It looks completely normal, but it's actually a Mac binary file, which is just a regular binary executable for iOS or Mac OS. And when you run this file, it connects to a remote server that then downloads the malware onto the phone remotely. And then after the malware runs, it installs a bunch of plugins and installs a bunch of hidden files and folders on the actual phone without, if you don't know what you're looking for, you have no idea what you're doing, you won't find it. And when these plugins are on the phone, it can pretty much intercept all the data you have, your Wi-Fi details, your pictures, your passwords. So it's pretty bad, but I hate to say it, as an Android user, I do think the Android one is a little bit worse. So it's called the Toxic Panda malware, and already 1,500 devices have been compromised. And Google, after this article came out, the authority behind Google Play Store said, sorry, all right. There we go. Sorry about that. Yeah, so 1,500 devices have already been compromised. And after the article was released, the authority behind Google Play Store said, look, we searched our entire app store. We found no instances of this threat at all, of this malware, which makes sense because the way that you actually get this malware is through a method known as sideloading. So on Android, you can download all of your apps from the Play Store, but then you also have that option of downloading apps through a website, just a regular third-party application that's not on the Play Store at all. And that's, if it's sketchy, you're gonna download a malware. That's what sideloading is. And I've talked about this before. Every malware that comes from an app on Android deals with the accessibility services. When an app has full accessibility services on an Android, it can pretty much remotely control your phone without you even knowing. It can block all your notifications. It can make it so you can, like, if the phone is off, they can literally control the phone. And that's exactly what they do. So as you can see, they're mainly doing this for banking fraud. So they get all of your accessibility service permissions, and they can intercept your one-time passwords, your OTPs, and they keylog your password when you log into your banking account. And then when they keylog it and you're off, they see the phone is off, then they go onto the banking app, then they intercept the OTP, and then they wire themselves or EFT themselves, whatever the case might be. But it's mainly for banking fraud. So in essence, if you're an Android user, don't download apps from yeah.
Are you saying like actually power?
Yeah, well, the screen is off. The screen is off, yeah. So it works when
the rest of the power is off.
Not- no.
Still check.
yeah, no, when the phone is shut down, they can't access it, but when the phone is just off, then
When you're not using your phone for.
yeah, when the lock screen is off. So yeah, if you're on Android, don't download some sketchy application off of a website. And if you're Apple, switch to Android.
So, hello, everybody. I'm going to be talking to you guys about new memory function that's going to be added in Linux 6.10. But I will be breaking down how memory works for you guys, so you guys get a little bit of an understanding. So I'm not just talking gibberish to you guys, but so just to start. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to. There we go. So just to start, so our computers use like a way to like a system called memory paging, and it basically you can like store it in RAM or you can store it in disk. And when you need information, the relevant pages move from storage to RAM. But historically, we've faced a little bit challenges in between these processes. Programs could modify other permissions. You could have memory corruption and buffer overflows. I don't know if you guys have experienced those yet. Or you can even get page table modifications, which could affect performance. Sorry, I keep switching the slides. Sorry about that. So, sorry, grab my notes here. Right, so because we don't have a lot of, there are some functions that can disable some of the memory modifications, but you can always like re-enable them when you need to access certain pages. So we have a new function coming in called mseal, which would seal the page. It would seal the page. Once it is created. So once the developer creates the memory page, before it transfers towards the RAM from the disk, it's locked and you can't change it after the creation date. When this was originally introduced in December of 2023, there was a lot of issues with the code. The creator of Linux, Linus Torvald, actually like completely ripped apart the commit that this guy first added in and said, you know, it's there's other functions that do these things like OpenBSD that have immutable function. I don't know if they have a function called immutable, which basically does the same thing. But in this case, you can use mseal on the Chrome V8 sandbox, which is the main reason why this is being pushed into Linux. Immutable does work on Linux, but this one specifically is for sandboxing in the Chrome V8. So I don't know if you guys have heard, but in this past year alone, I think we've had like 20 or 30 vulnerabilities within the V8 engine for Chrome, and this should eliminate all of those issues. Yeah, I mean, it's not pushed yet. It's going to be pushed at February 2025, but it basically will allow to seal memory pages so that hackers can't, you know, blow through the stack and return to whatever address they want. It just doesn't work. It's locked at that point. So there was some issues, like I said originally, where, well, what happens if, you know, you need to edit the page once you've locked it? They haven't really changed too much in that regard. You basically have to make a new page every time you want to have a change, but it's better, it's safer. You should have a lot less memory corruption issues. So that's pretty much it. That's my whole presentation.
You don't want to exit full.
Oh,
I thought of it.
Thanks, John, and thanks to all our speakers. Those presentations were really cool. We're going to take a short break before our workshop. I'm going to post the form for the CCR so everybody can fill it out. You just check the stream questions chat. So we'll take like a 10, 15 minutes and then we'll get to the workshop. I'll introduce our guests and we'll get to that.
Yes. I'm just gonna stop here. Great. Nice to meet you.
Like, we really
There you go. If you need a clicker, by the way, yeah, we have clickers. Sure. So
for this, because I am paranoid, I'm also going to grab my power.
yes, no, 100%. That's good.
Okay, we trusted it. This up. Got it.
Yes, we're good.
You.
Of course. Yeah, I guess he's Linux. I was way nervous than I thought. I felt so much. I wrote like so much. Didn't even get to say all of it. Where's Bargain? It's here.
Oh,
You guys need the CCR code?
yeah. I put a message this way.
Yes. Yeah. And we can delete the message in like 15. Okay. Yeah, if you guys need the CCR code for you.
Holy crap! It worked first try.
How dare. Amazing. So we got like 10 minutes. So we're just gonna wait for our rest of our last one. Yeah, of course. That's great. Amazing. And then if you need the web, we got the website there. We can move it towards the lockbox if you're or where you want to set up.
And people down there.
Yeah,
It's 10 slides. It's really short.
Okay.
It's just the
Right.
How it works.
Yeah.
We might pick a little thing.
Yeah, well, yeah, no, that's definitely. I think maybe we can move it like a wheel or something. Just try to think of it.
That's okay. Yeah. Oh, there's a book. Sure. Well, you are up on you. Speaking. But all the keys. Oh. Because I know that's waiting for verification data, but to all the I'm seeing that get the they salary and they don't think it's like a air force. Chart, but I think so it's The camera if we want to edit live, so and make it a little down the big most feel.
Say, is there a way that I could move it to maybe like
Move what?
the webcam to like out of here? I don't know if that's possible. I'm trying to move. I'm trying to do the lock box on this table and then move this table here.
The other option is because we're not really so we don't have anything really up on the screen anymore.
Oh,
You can move the webcam. Okay, I know.
okay, perfect. Great.
Camera, yes.
I think we're moving the camera. It's down here, I think, just so we can have some more.
Now, or are you
Let's do this first.
Oh, and it's very good.
Books. Yeah, see if we can get some computer. Transfer the content and videos we stick with the site that I did. So we also have access to the Discord. Right. Yes, we can. I always didn't it. I got this like token file from freaking anything I didn't see. It's also in the ODB format. Yeah, it's fine. I mean, this is the making so yeah, yeah. That's interesting. Should you see Joe? Sorry. Yeah, great. I'm gonna tell you exactly and more. This thing is very convenient. It's going to transfer so fast. Let's confirm stuff. Yeah. I've never seen it. Stuff. Slower. And I can at least stream to the Discord. Brought mine as well from B-sides. Because I don't even know how you did that. He's so excited to get back together.
You see?
Whoa. It's like a puzzle lock. Yeah.
It's really cost a lot of time to put the fingers.
Wow. I would never have expected that. No, that's insane. And so what do we got from these? Yes! Let's go. It's the craziest part. Sick. It's sick, bro. You can see like. Oh, amazing. Love that. You got these ones?
Yes.
I can never solve it. I can never solve it. We'll learn today. So many times. Shit. Oh. Sir. Amazing. Thank you so much.
Show me one. Oh, yeah. All right, so we do off yours.
Yes, we'll do a fine and then you switch to the.
You got the
Yeah, I got the HDMI.
not the HDMI, the sensor.
Yes, I have a sensor. Yeah. Yes, 100%. I'm just. Yes, I have it. Okay.
Oh, this legendary one.
This one, perfect.
Now I hope that the animation is stable.
Couldn't read content. Okay, well, find out if it's here.
Try just
Yep. Okay.
look at that, it works. How dare it?
All right, everybody. All right, guys. All right, we're going to start with the presentation.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thank you, guys. So I'm going to introduce Allan and Robin, who are going to be doing our workshop today. Allan has survived IT for 25 years and is currently specializing as an anti-abuse and anti-abuse operations. And we have Robin as well, who is going to teach us how to pick a pin and tumbler lock. Robin is also a cyber risk manager working at a cloud services company. So I'm going to give the floor over to them.
Hey guys, I love that we're locked for this presentation on that.
Don't worry, it'll be short. I got it.
Oh, you got it.
We're all good. Anybody here picked a lock before? Why am I here? All right, so we're gonna go. I'm gonna pretend you haven't, and we're gonna go right down to the basics.
Yeah.
Do you want to know what this was?
Hold on.
There you go. And then next one should work as well.
Wow.
Open up, yeah.
Yeah, that works. So anyway, it's not that important. This is actually just the definition of lock directly off of Wikipedia. The idea here is that defeating locks for recreational purposes by undestructive means. That's all they're really looking for. It's the idea of being able to pop a lock in some way that doesn't require you to destroy the lock. Put it back together. Okay. Tool is the open organization of Tool is kind of one of the international organizations originally started in the Netherlands, if I understand correctly, that does exactly this. They are the lockpick enthusiasts of this place. Tool with 3 O's.us is their main website, and there's a ton of information on there. The majority of the stuff that I've put onto these slides is from that site. If as we go on, this interests you, I highly suggest that you go visit this site. In Toronto, the Tool Toronto chapter meets in the Site 3 Collab downtown every Wednesday, and you can find them on Meetup. So some people have asked, like, is there a lockpicking place? This is the closest there is. Jacob at the top of that list that runs this thing, that hosts this thing, he's the head of Tool Toronto. He's got a couple. He also ends up running Lockpick Village for Sector, and next year he's going to be at B-Sides helping us out there as well. So yeah, so you can go onto the Meetup site. You can actually book it. They meet every Wednesday night, as long as there's enough people that are interested. The space itself is actually really cool as well, because it is kind of all sorts of other stuff. It's well worth the visit. Now, Tool itself has 3 rules. These are the rules that keep you in trouble, because you are picking this thing, and some people like continue to claim that it is a criminal skill set. So we want to be able to make certain that you behave ethically, so that if somebody tries to question you, you've got some level of out. You can take a little higher. You do all. Number 1, you do not pick a lock you don't own. It's pretty straightforward, pretty simple. If you're picking somebody else's surreptitiously lock, it goes to intent, which means somebody could try to hang something off of it. Do not pick a lock without permission. My favorite story is one of the physical pen testers a long time ago was telling a story how he was actually cuffed in the back of a car when the police locked his key in the car. And he was trying to mine to the car that he can get out of the handcuffs and get him his key as long as he has permission. Can I take these handcuffs off? Which confused the heck out of me. That was in the US apparently. And finally, do not pick a lock that you rely upon. Picking a lock too often will damage the lock, will break the lock. I know that everybody gets a new set of lock picks. The first thing they want to do is find out whether the front door lock can be picked. And it probably can, but if you get it wrong and springs go sproing, you can't open the lock anymore, and now you're stuck outside. So very simple set. There's kind of like more things, but they're more on the funner aspect. If you follow these things, you can always. A lot of people ask me about legality. Yes, sir.
I assume the do not pick a lock.
Correct. That is absolutely correct. My neighbor locked themselves out. I helped him back in.
You don't rely on that lock, so
He also happens to be a lawyer. And a crown attorney at that. So no, you're absolutely correct. A lot of the questions I get is is it illegal? Is it illegal to carry lockpicks? Is it illegal to pick locks? This is the picking locks part. The carrying part in Canada, as far as I've been able to gather, they are called tools of the trade. So it's like walking down the street carrying a crowbar. If there has been no crime committed in the area where a crowbar was used, the same thing kind of applies to lockpicks. And then on top of that, believe it or not, the cops in Canada are actually smarter than in other southern places. So they also recognize that when people are breaking into houses, they're not using lockpicks, they're using the big old boot or a brick through the window. Now, carrying lockpicks is a little bit of a different story here areas not because they're lockpicks, but because they're small and pointy. So they can be taken or viewed as a weapon because of that. Okay? So let's talk about pin and tumbler locks. So from the front, when you're looking at the front of, you can see on the left side, that's about as much as you see. See the keyway, and you can probably see the bottom pin. If we take off that front view, what we have is a series of pin stacks. The pin stack consists of a spring at the top, a top pin, and a key pin. The key pin is all of different lengths, and the spring is a compression spring, so it pushes it all down into the keyway. When a key enters a lock, it raises the key pin so that the shear line between the key pin and the top match the cylinder so that the cylinder can turn. So as you can see in the middle picture, the cylinder cannot turn because the key pin. That is the entire mechanism of the lock. That's why a lock is a lock. When we look at the side view, you take a key and it lines up all of the pins to that shear line so that the cylinder can turn. Make sense so far? Really pretty simple, really straightforward. The key is coded to the length of those pins. So on the left side here, for instance, we've got pin number 2 with an undercut key. So you can see that the blue pin on position 2 is in the way of the shear line. So the cylinder can't turn. Similarly over here, except this time it's pin because the key is cut too high and the cylinder can't turn. So that's why the key has to be the correct key to be able to actually raise all the pins in position to work. Does that make sense so far? There are 5 levels in a standard lock, in an old lock, for how many different depths that key can have. So why is it pickable is the missing slide. So I'm going to have to actually draw something, I think. See what? All right. So if you think about
Now, I'm trying.
I've been broke down the middle, yeah. If you need more, I got the. Oh, you got lots? Okay.
As long as they work.
Yeah, they're. Leave them here if you need.
As long as everybody can see this.
It is.
So if you think about the actual cylinder in the lock, top down view. So kind of like this. There's going to be a series of holes drilled into the top of that lock to make way for all those keyways, for all those pin stacks. Now, in a perfect world, this is a perfectly good straight line. But as we know, tolerances of the metal, which is usually brass, the ability to be able to machine straight on a in the real world is that we end up with, and I'm going to exaggerate this, we end up with the holes not being a straight line. So this allows us to be able to, when a pin is in a position, by turning the cylinder ever so slightly and trying to figure out which pin binds. In a perfect world, they would all bind all at once. But if we're turning this, let's say, to bind first. So from the side view, that kind of looks like this. So this number 2 is binding here, and it is the reason currently that the cylinder can't turn. Stuff just happens to be the one side. It can further. Now, you can force that keyway, that key pin up to push the top pin into the right position so that that cylinder just a little bit. When you are picking lock, what's going to happen is you provide attention by turning that key slightly. You find the pin that's binding, and you try to raise that pin until you feel that turn tool turn just a little bit more. And once it does that, the next pin will bind. And then the trick is just to hunt down what order those pins are going to bind in. That makes sense. Yes, sir.
Do you have to keep rotational pressure on it? Otherwise, the.
Correct. Yes, tension. The second thing, I don't have a slide for. Second problem, a little bit more of a minor problem. It's also exactly the same size, or make all the pins exactly the same size. So one of the things that can happen, raise that first pin, and if the holes are just close enough together that when you and find this next binding, when you push that second one up, first one falls back down again. So not only do you have to keep tension, you have to figure out how much tension you need to keep. So there's like 3 variables: the amount of tension, the pin order, the size of the pins, and the size of the holes by definition. Okay. Now, this is called single pin picking, and this is kind of what everybody starts with. So you go in, you hunt down each pin one by one, and when you do get it open, it's a moment of dopamine, which is unbelievable. I got so bad you could almost open it with a popsicle stick, and I handed that to a friend of mine, and he, within minutes, picked it open and literally started shaking. That was absolutely. Now, other techniques include rakes. So they're kind of saying that this kind of thing, that's really hard to see, but they don't look like hooks is really what it is. They got S snakes, or they got other bumps on them or not, so that you basically rake on them and you hope that you get them all into position. You've got bump keys. Here's an entire set of them. Now, this is kind of an interesting attack because the way that these work is that you put them all the way into the lock except one spot. And then while holding tension on it, you hit it with a soft hammer, and the entire key or the entire pin space bounces. And if you do it just right with the right amount of timing, the lock opens because all of them go above the shear line. It's the same thought as that old physics toy on the office desks. So it's that kind of thing. I've never been able to master that. Lockpick guns are the same idea as the bump key, except it's a piece of metal that you put in, and it just it just vibrates. You can make them out of an old electric machine, and figure that out, and it works the same way. Key impressioning attack. You take a blank key, you put it in the lock, and you pretend you're trying to open the lock, and then you pull it out and you examine the key, and then you file down the key as you go. Now, the fun thing about key impressioning is, you remember the old bike locks and U-locks with the circular locks? So some of those were open just by taking the end of a Bic pen, end of a plastic pen, shoving it in there as hard as you could, and turning it. That was a self-impressioning attack. What it was doing, since it was already binding all the pins, it was impressioning the length in that lock. And something slightly newer is a pick. Actually, I don't know how old these are, actually. I just got my first one. And this is a little bit of a crazy, and just to take a closer look. But the idea here is that you've got an extra lever, exactly the depth you go to, and the entire unit turns. So this is for like speed picking. Now, the problem with these is you need one for each kind of keyway there. There's a lot of them. Other types of locks, disc container locks, which is kind of what new modern bike locks look like. The circular locks we talked about, wafer locks, which is what you will see. Cabinets, lever. Here, the key on this thing is kind of interesting and fun. It's metal. And I suggest you have a look at that. And combo locks, as you know, dimple locks. And every time I look at this list, there are other pin types. So you remember those pins. There are security pins that are supposed to make it hard. And the way that they make it hard is by giving you set. So one of the pins, if you can imagine, a top pin is shaped like a mushroom. So that what happens is when you pick that, and it goes up to the actual bulb of that mushroom, and it feels like it's set, but it didn't. It's not going to turn any farther. Sidebars, side pins are a new one that come in home play, and visors, the quick sets. Some of them have ball bearings, and there's a special mention here for the master key wafer. Master key wafer is another pin between the top pin and the key pin, and what it's designed to do is allow you to have a regular key and master key. But what's interesting about it is it actually weakens the lock, because now there's two shear lines pins for at least one pin, and that's really the entirety. I've got a couple of other mentions. I've got this thing, which somebody's already opened. There is no keyway, so you're welcome to have fun with that. This is actually a puzzle lock out of Lee Valley that I couldn't resist, and it was far too expensive for what it is, but have fun. And you might have seen these back in the high school puck lock. So, do you ever see the rating on these?
Like really bad.
Like really bad. Like I did this twice. There you go. And these are rated for high school, not even college lockers, because textbooks are expensive, right? Those. Right. Now, the other thing, though, that Right? The other thing that I found out about this, though, there's somebody that actually noted how this thing works and discovered that the it can be the number of positions can be reduced. So something like up, left, left, right, down can just be up, left. Like it's the same combination inside because there's only. So have a look for that. If you can find the decoder, the guy that actually decoded these, it's absolutely an amazing watch. That's a level of mathematics I can't. One last final thing. So how to actually hold. I prefer left hand, lock out, keyway away from me. I put the tension wrench in the bottom of the keyway and I put my finger on it like that. And then in my right hand, I take my pick and I reach into the lock and I usually lever off of that tension wrench and I keep changing the tension right here. That's it. Come on down and enjoy. Oh, I'm sorry. One last thing. I have a challenge lock. Yeah. So I have lock blocks that I built that can time you in picking 6 locks. I have pinned these locks, so there's only 3 pins in each. So it is accessible. Like even a first-time picker at Sector in 20 minutes, pick 5 of them. That's fine. Someone can tell me.
I just premised.
You have a camera set up in case we need it. Yes, I think so. Oh yeah, you will put that one. I don't even know how the fuck to do it.
Yeah.
Or at least maybe 8 minutes. This one.
But, yeah.
We got our challenge.
Okay, great, perfect.
The reason I got keys and all of these.
Okay, I'm gonna give you back your click.
Because when you start doing challenge like that, there's something.
Oh, there's a key. Not this one. Okay, let's release that.
This would be the key.
If there's a thing.
See if that.
So all the locks, okay, all the pins are in the top of the lock. The order doesn't matter. Direction doesn't matter. Correct. Which gives them each different. If you get it all going right,
Okay.
I would cancel that and then throw.
it's over there.
I would stop the stream and just go to webcam
Yeah.
and I'm just over there.
Oh,
And anyone who's still in the thing and wants to thing, just
So,
watch the
45
webcam
just
for John now.
Yeah, to them, yeah.
you don't have to. No, leave them open until.
Oh, we're done.
What's the deal with this?
Okay.
I have no idea.
And Alexa, should that works for you?
What about this? Not over.
Break some locks.
Just trying to get this up here.
Oh, you got it.
There you go.
I got this?
I made it accept. I'm taking take 5. I was 3 was my ceiling in sector. So there you go. You can take it just- Well, here we go. Okay, the previous year, I had it 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that was the but it was just it was a little too much and it took too long. I made the silly mistake this year. This is the only thing I'm bringing it. So everybody they're staring at the person. Yeah, exactly. So that's really yeah. I don't mean from it was really around when you three. Eventually, I got it. But I didn't know anything about it. So then I was stuck on the first one, and like, yeah, it was quite fun. There's that picture also, right?
Yeah, so that's us right now, but we're also YouTube thing. We can move it to be a
You want to actually raise it up?
Yeah.
If you got something to put it on time.
okay, yeah,
You can't focus screen. Or
Oh, yeah. We might be able to hit it on
you can't see.
no, you can't.
All right. I think I loosened it. All right, it's a lot of glare time.
Yes. I mean, we'll work with it.
Sorry, folks.
I love some photos so we can put on video. Should be something else. Yep.
They can be handed out. This is just how we try to make it a little bit fair. With your pins in your hand, so I press on the big screen. I'm gonna press select and then. All right. Whoops. What's going on?
You figure it out. Just for now.
Right. Again.
I want to like overlay. Oh, you know what? I could actually. So this one, all right.